What's up, guys? We are back with another single-packed Overwatch Ultimates figure, taking a look today at Lucio, one of the healers in our line. So we've got him here in the same kind of package that we saw with Sombra, for example. So he's here in the window. We've got some artwork on the front, nice white loot box look and feel with the logo down there on the bottom. And then we've got some stats, that same artwork again, and then more artwork for the rest of the figures in the line. So let's pull them out and take a look. And here is our third and final healer in this initial Overwatch wave from Hasbro. We've got our Lucio figure here. And this guy's pretty interesting. There's a lot of stuff going on just from a general design standpoint. He has a lot more than just a standard humanoid type character. He's obviously got the humongous leg pieces, and then he's got some interesting accessories. So we've got some cool stuff going on here, and honestly, he's got an interesting design in the sense that I thought he wasn't going to be able to stand up based on his feet because he has those inline energy skates on. So there's some weird stuff, but some cool stuff going on here. So we're going to take a look, as usual, at Articulation, see how he moves. It's pretty similar to the rest of the line, but of course we have to do it. So we've got a head that's on a ball hinge. He can go back, but if you go straight back, his hair is going to hit his back immediately. So you've kind of got to push that out of the way. He goes down really far, swivel side to side. Arms go out, they rotate. You've got a bicep swivel, double jointed elbows. They're pretty good. You've got a hinge and rotation at the wrist. We've got an upper diaphragm twist, so side to side, back and forward. And then, of course, he has a crunch to go along with it, so he goes all the way over. Legs go out. They kick forward a bit. There is a lot going on at the thigh, obviously, so it's going to impede movement a bit, and then he goes backward. You've got a thigh cut here. We have got single jointed knees. Now, obviously, there's only so much you can do because he's got a whole bunch of business going on back here, so he only goes so far before he kicks his own thigh armor, I suppose. So that's definitely a bit of a hindrance. And then you've got rocker, and you've got hinges down at the ankles. So there is some interesting stuff going on here as well, just because of the design. I mean, you can see those. They aren't your standard feet or boots or anything like that. They are very much unique. But he has a very similar articulation scheme to the rest of the line. He just has, some design challenges with the look itself that definitely get in the way of the joint system. As far as the overall aesthetic and the design here, I'm a big fan of Lucio's look to begin with. I love a lot of his other more weird skins, but this one is very, very nicely done and very well translated into figure form. We've got a lot of different things going on here with this figure. You've got bare skin, you've got a really lean, kind of just standard upper body, but then you have a very mechanical lower body that is very much a different thing altogether. There's a lot of weird stuff going on from the waist down, just from a looks perspective, but then also how he actually works as a figure. But just talking about the regular base body, I mean, I think he looks pretty good. He is very much in line with the rest of this line in the sense that he does seem a little small, but I still don't think they're too far out of scale for other lines, like mixing them with Legends. They just aren't going to be up to snuff for a lot of folks, I don't think. And that certainly seems to be what a lot of folks are saying. I'm okay with it, but I can understand the slight frustration where these guys are a little bit thinned down, because Lucio is definitely a little on the thin side. His arms are definitely small as a good indicator of kind of his general size, but they do look good, and they've got nice tempo on there for his tattoos. And you've got the armband, you've got the little insignia emblazoned on his chest there. We've got his backpack, which has some nice paint apps. I don't have any real complaints about paint with this figure. For the most part, it's pretty clean. I don't have too much issues with bleeding or, scuffed lines or anything like that. It looks pretty good. And then the sculpt on him is really nice. I'm really happy with the way the lower half looks. I mean, it's obviously a more beefed up design. He is more mechanical, more robotic from the waist down, and it very well comes through here. You do have a little bit of paint. It's not tons. You've got some on the cabling. You've got the knee pads are painted, and so on and so forth. But it is nicely done, and I like it. It very much clashes. It's a different kind of look from the rest of the figure, so he definitely stands out amongst other toys. There's no doubt about it. And then, of course, you just have the general design, which is cool, but it's also kind of odd, especially from a stability standpoint, because he sits on these, and they are very, very thin, but he has really no issues in my experience so far standing up. I really thought he was going to have a problem because he isn't standing on much, but he stands just fine. And then, of course, he comes with some accessories to make it even easier. But I think he looks really nice. And I'll do some size comparisons with the other figures just to give you an idea of what he looks like. But I think this is a real winner just from the looks department, especially from the waist down. And from the neck up, I think he looks really nice. I think they did a good job with the sculpt, with the paint, with his visor. But he definitely is kind of in that same camp as Sombra, where the heads are a little small and get kind of a Beetlejuice shrunken head kind of situation going on, depending on how I look at him. But I think the sculpt is nicely done. The hairlines are nicely done. You've got the great paint shading from the yellow to the tan to the black up there, and then he's got his visor. This is a gummy piece. It's not removable or anything. This is very much affixed to his head, so watch doing exactly what I just did. But you can move that visor out of the way if you want, and it does help you see kind of the photo reel that's underneath there. So he does have nice paint applications. Face looks really good. Very much looks like the Lucio I expect him to look like. But just watch out, now I've got to deal with putting that back in place. Otherwise, though, I mean, I think it's a nice sculpt and it very much looks like him. But I wish, just like with Sombra, that the head was just a smidge bigger. And then, like I mentioned, here he is next to a couple other Overwatch figures. So you can see that he very well lines up with the rest of this line in terms of your standard human type of figures. I still think that the head on Lucio, just like Sombra, is a little too small. Soldier 76, I don't have as much of a problem with, but these two definitely kind of share that pin-headed look almost. Otherwise, the rest of the figures are very well in line with each other. And here he is next to a couple other Hasbro 6-inch style figures. So we've got Marvel Legends Cyclops and the very amazing and recent Power Rangers Lord Zed figure. And you can see while Lucio kind of stacks up among them, he definitely does seem to be a little bit more diminutive, a little bit smaller compared to these other lines. And while it personally isn't a huge thing for me, he fits in well enough. I can understand the frustration some folks have when they look at some of these figures because they are a little bit thinned out, a little bit toned down in comparison to a few other lines. For accessories, Lucio is pretty well stacked. He comes with an interesting array of items here. And like all the other figures, he does come with extra hands. He comes with an extra couple of left hands. So you've got a fist and you've got kind of a style pose hand. So if you want to kind of put him into a pose where he's kind of changing up from speed boost to the healing boost, things like that. He then, of course, has his gun. And this thing's pretty interesting. It has nice paint apps on it. It's got some green on there. It's got some blue on there. Sculpt is really nicely done. But it's also got this cable that runs and it plugs into, you may or may have not seen it, the hole that's in his right bicep. And I would suggest putting the cable in first and then putting it in his hand because it just seemed to work better that way. But once it's in there, it seems to move around pretty nicely. I haven't had any issues with it popping out, even when the arm is fully extended. It seems to be just long enough. So that's kind of cool. I like the idea of that. It works surprisingly better than I had expected. And then maybe the coolest accessory that he has is the set of energy effects that stick into his energy rollerblades down here. And they're just, big pieces of translucent plastic, so it looks like he's kind of, boosting along there. Of course, they are green translucent plastic, so they are his speed boost. They aren't a healing effect item. They are a speed effect item. So I think that's cool. I don't really have an interest of having both sets, but I'm glad that they kind of went with the green theme for this figure to keep things all in one arena. But I think they're nicely done, and they are they are labeled left and right. I'm not really sure it seems to matter. I've had no real issues putting them in either one, and they're very similar. So just keep that in mind. But they work really well. And then, of course, they keep him even more balanced than he already is. So for a figure that I thought was going to topple over because he doesn't have a great deal of a footprint, he has two rather large bases that will very well keep him grounded while still looking cool. So overall, I'd say we have a pretty solid figure here. Outside of the fact that I do think the head is a little on the small side, I think the rest of the figure definitely makes up for it. The body is really nicely done. It's a great contrast between that standard humanoid upper body and the very mechanical lower body. Articulation scheme is on point, paint is on point, and then he comes with a pretty solid array of accessories that absolutely accentuate all of the key things about this figure, about this character, from the sonic blaster to the energy effects to just the general sculpt from the waist down being exactly what I want it to be. I'm really happy with how Lucio turned out. I think it's another solid addition to the line. So that's going to do it for this look at the Hasbro Overwatch Ultimates Lucio figure. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.